All right, so this is 3 interesting things about 3 interesting games. Because there's some stuff that I've done on the last couple of games that I think are interesting, and they're not enough to make a full talk about, and they've kind of gotten lost to the passage of time, but people still aren't doing them, so people need to know. That's me. If you don't know, I'm MatthewMartiennsen. I helped organize this thing. I've been doing game audio since 2003. NHL 2004 was my first game audio gig. I'm in the game. Put my name in as a creative character. You can see a really bad picture of me. Currently I'm at Clay Entertainment. We did Don't Starve, Invisible Ink, Mark of the Ninja, which are the 3 games that I'm talking about today. I also co-hosted and started Beard Cats and Game Audio with Gord, in case anybody hasn't listened to it here. Which, if you haven't, you should leave right now and go listen to it. All right, so I'm going to talk about the voice processing. Voice processing I did for Invisible Ink, the ambient system in Don't Starve, and the 2D occlusion obstruction system I made for Mark of the Ninja. Yeah. So, there's sort of these different voice processings that went on in Invisible Ink. There was a voiceover in the game that had which is the main processing. No, it's not the main processing I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that. We did that, which was different from the voiceover for the front end menu mission select stuff, and then there's guard barks. That's kind of my processing chain for the voiceover in-game stuff. That's really common for how many plugins I'll use in a voiceover processing chain. I started with an EQ to do what I want, kind of to fix stuff, and then an EQ for taste, de-ess it, compress it, compress it, compress it. Futz it. I had a reverb baked in on these things, and then multiband compress it. Feel free to ask any questions at any time. Yeah.
Did you guys localize? And if so, did you send this to the
God, no, thankfully, no. I've got some localization horror stories from when I went at EA, and I'm really thankful that we are an indie company that is a size of that we probably will never localize the speech of anything. Yeah, I don't know if I ever sent this to somebody, what they would do with it.
All right, you're going to buy $2,000 worth of plugins.
Is this?
Sorry, do you operate with all of them sitting there? Like you just dragged them all into one screenshot, right?
Yes. I opened them all up and got them into one screenshot.
Does it make sure the track is visible in that one crack?
The me operating all my plugins as an audio suite thing is a whole nother talk. And that's how, like, floating window stuff. What I want to talk about is we had this computer in the game, Incognita, and she talks to you a lot. I wanted to like computer voice. So this is how I went about making that computer voice sound. I recorded every line 3 times, like basically just right in a row. Do the line, do the line, do the line. And then I stacked them all up and edited them to get them back into time, but not completely in time. Basically, I was thinking of music vocal layering. Like you get a natural chorusing when you stack up BGs, right? Not backgrounds, but background singers. So I was coming at from that. I wanted a natural chorused kind of effect to it. So this was horribly time inefficient, but sounded great.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
That's one take by itself.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
That's those 3 takes stacked up. And then each track had its own processing. So
personality matrix integrity critical.
that was track 1.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
That was track 2.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
That was track 3. And then all 3 of them at once.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
And then I had a master bus of stuff on that.
Personality matrix integrity critical.
And that's what went into the game. So that was track 1 had Crystallizer. Sound choice is fucking awesome. All of their stuff. The second track had sci-fi on it. The thing. Digi design, whatever. And then the third track had our bass, Microshift from Sound Toys, and the Lexicon 42 delay on it. And then, because I'm not done, the master channel had Vector Elements, that awesome EQ, and a limiter. I EQ like that all the time. My EQing scares the music part of me. So that's how we made computer voices in Invisible Ink. Any questions about that? No, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
How many of those voices were there? Like how many lines did you have to process like that?
200.
Oh.
Yeah. The editing took the editing together was what really took the time. Once I had it edited, then I could flow through it. Yeah.
Did you do any sort of mastering chain prior to doing this, or was the mastering chain with those compressors basically built into this process?
Yeah. This was the process. There wasn't any extra processing. There was no other
So
10
straight
plugins.
Up raw, like those tracks there are just straight up raw recordings. Cool.
Yeah, I might have done some clip gaining just to get certain ones into the ballpark.
So it was those 3 takes, the editing, then the 10 plugins, then the 6 plugins, then the 3 more plugins.
No 10 plugins. That was the 10 plugins was all the rest of the lines in the game.
Oh.
That's the normal processing. Just to get it to sound normal, I used the 10 plugins. To make it sound like a robot, I only need 9.
Did you have John looping, like doing ADR on yourself, or just wild takes?
Just wild takes. And that made for more editing to get it into line, but made for more variety of the takes. I didn't want them the same. There was a couple of times I forgot what I was doing and only recorded 2 takes of some stuff because the talent was one of our artists. So it was just in-house, and I'd grab her, we'd record some lines, and this is what I tested out, and then I was like, oh, I need some more stuff, and I grabbed and just recorded twice, and then put it in. Actually, I put it in and copied it over, copied one take onto multiple things, and I was like, this doesn't sound right. I'm like, oh, right. I used different takes on every track, and I have to edit them all. Fuck. So when I used the same, it sounded differently. And I pitch shifted. If I had to double up, if I only had 2 takes instead of 3, one of them I would slightly pitch shift just to make it different and get something different out of it. So that's one interesting thing in one interesting game. Next is the ambient system in Don't Starve. So this really applies to 2D games. I don't really know if this would work for 3D games. But if you're doing a 2D game, we were doing a procedurally generated 2D game. And how the heck do you make ambiences for a procedurally generated world that has, that's just a screenshot of the green, the dark green, and the brown are all different tiles of different ambiences. So it's a procedurally generated world, and I was like, fuck me. So what we did, every tile on the floor gets an ambient tag associated with it. So when we create a new surface, we create a tag that associates to something in Designer. That is this is the grasslands, this is the rocky place, this is whatever. So what happens at runtime is we've got all these tags over all the surfaces. We draw a big circle around the player and count up all the tiles that we collect. We take the top 3 of that count and make that 100% and ignore all the rest. Of those, we make that 100%, and then we take that percent value, so there's 50% grassland and 25% forest and 25% waves. We play each of those ambiences at that mix, 50, 25, 25, say. we don't update it until you move, because we were updating it every frame, and that was killing things. That was dumb. So now the game checks to see, I don't know, every 4 meters you move, which is essentially the size of one tile, then it updates, it doesn't count again. So it doesn't count until you start moving. If you're standing there, it's not bothering to check. We found you could lag pretty far before you started to notice, because it's just the background, it's just the ambient stuff. There's still all the foreground, there's all the creatures running around, there's all this other crazy stuff. So that's how I solved the procedural ambience problem. In a new game, I'm updating the system. I'm keeping going with this because I like the idea. And I've updated it to, I'm now, instead of drawing a circle, I'm drawing a quadrant, and I'm checking each quadrant. So I'm doing, and then placing emitters at distances from the character. I'm playing ambiences in each of the 4 quadrants, and that actually allows for some more directionality of stuff that you can actually tell where some of the stuff is coming from as well. So I'm still improving this.
It's probably less math too, right? To draw a circle versus to draw a quadrant versus.
Sure, I don't know. Yeah.
The camera's quite distant in Don't Starve. Did that cause you any problems setting up the detection? Well, not problems, but creative problems?
No, for that game, because we the ambiences were disconnected from the camera. The camera, because you can zoom the camera out really far.
Right.
So it's a moving camera. So we just said, this is the circle is, I don't know how many tiles the circle is, but it's a set size around the player. So I think technically you could pull out far enough to actually see what you're not hearing. But also when you pull out really far, there's some cloud noise, so that masks everything as well. So nobody's said it's a problem, so.
So one of the characters is moving, and if he moves 4 meters, does the mix suddenly shift, or does it sort of fade?
It fades between. It's a moving thing. So it's not snapping.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. There's a delay to it.
What do you guys do with the imaging of, say, you walk all the way right next to the ocean? How does that pan in your headphones?
It doesn't.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
All the ambiences are stereo, so it's just a cohesive, overall image of what's going on, and it's sort of mixed back, so it sort of fudges it. The quadrant thing I'm doing in our new games, that's starting to fix some of that.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the problems I had. I want to be like.
Emitters that are ambient?
We also have stuff that's emitters.
Okay.
So that's also another. If you really wanted to be directionality, I pulled it out of the ambient system and would make an emitter on something. So yeah. But also splitting up into the quadrants and placing those starts to give some of that directionality as well. In the back.
Your mix based on the percentage, is that a combination of actual level mix of the different ambiences, or like a probability of speed of triggers?
The ambiences themselves are beds with one-shots firing off that's mixed together. So it's then that whole thing moving up and down.
By level?
Yeah.
When you say take the top 3 and balance report to 100%, you mean take the top 3 tile types according to tile count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe there's 7 tiles you've counted up in your circle. The bottom 4 of that count were dropping.
So in theory, then you would never. Doesn't that mean that you never end up with a 100% mix of one type?
You can, if you'd have to get 100% of something something on the screen or in the circle.
As long as I've got one,
it's going to get a little, but then it's 2. It's going to be if you get 1 and 99% is the other thing, you're going to get 1% of that one little bit. So, yeah.
Would that 1% be allowed to play depending on the voice threshold settings that you had in there, or if it was something like a blank?
No, I didn't do anything like that.
Okay.
This is FMod Designer. This is back in the dark ages. And we're still updating this game, and this is what we're still using. Anything else? We're good? Yay, ambulances. All right. I'm done. It's coming.
Stealthy.
Very.
And then I've got another invisible ink question for you.
There we go. Okay. I don't know. That was weird. So we're doing this is Mark the Ninja. We're doing a 2D stealth game. Basically, I don't know of anybody who's doing occlusion of obstruction in 2D games. Somebody can correct me. I'd be happy to be proven wrong. But most get up, down, left, right, occlusion, obstruction. Like, there's so much panning stuff that's wrong in 2D games that I hear that it bothers the crap out of me. And with my game, I was like, I'm going to do something about it. Especially because it's stealth-based. It's so much informational and sound can play into that. I was like, I got to find a way to fix this. So, it's pretty simple. Programmer stuff. Sure, this is not simple. They built a sound mesh for every level. This is like paraphrasing and distilling down what my programmer told me for another bigger, longer talk I did about this. They built a sound mesh. The sound mesh was used for AI pathfinding, and they used something called triangle to create the mesh. That means something to somebody.
Sounds like illumination to me.
This is a mesh that's created in a test level of Mark and the Ninja. All the blue are triangles of space within the world. White is like you can't go through it. So this is what would get generated for every level. And this was instead of doing something like raycasting or something. It was like we pre-made. It was a pre-built level, so we could make these meshes right off the bat. This is a really dark picture that, if you could see it, shows the triangle system in the actual game. It just looks really dark. And what this is showing is up there, I believe, is the Ninja, which is the listener position. And down here is the sound source. Or maybe it's the other way around. Doesn't matter. This is the sound. The blue, the yellow are like listener and object. The blue is pathfinding through the world the sound. Like this is the path the sound would take if this was a real world. The red, trust me, it's red, is all of the like canceled out, like sound can't go that way. Like this is the quickest path for a sound to go to get from A to B. So, what happens with that? Sound plays, we have 3 values in fmod attached to every single thing we wanted occluded, obstructed. There's a volume, a filter, and a panning. Back then, my solution for the panning was not to move the listener position, which is what I would do now. I just took over panning and put it as a parameter that I drew the curves for. Because I was like, screw you, you're dumb. This is what you should play. But the obstruction occlusion thing is really based on this volume and a low-pass filter. We draw a straight line from A to B. That's our volume. Gets distance the farther it is away, but the closer, it's louder, like just in a straight line. That big, long pathfinding number, that drives the filter, so that the longer that is, the more low-pass filtered it is, so it gets more muffled. So one of the things I was really after is, Ninja's here, dude is walking on the floor above me, but it takes like fucking all the way around the level to get to that dude. Well, I can hear him, he's really loud because he's like thump, 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 but it's super filtered because he's got to go through all the level. What it does is sort of creates a fake occlusion obstruction system with a very simple, just a couple of parameters. It's really simple. Everybody doing a 2D game should do it. Any questions? Yeah.
Did you consider using that at all to control like the reverb sound or anything like that?
Not then. I would now. That would be something that if I was to evolve this system, I would definitely do more reverb driving with it as well. It worked then, so I was like, cool. There was a bunch of edge casing, like the curves. Let me see if I can. Pull this up. Where are you?
Oh, designer, I missed.
Oh, you failed. There we go. Oh, this is horrible. Okay, this is not everything because I only wanted to. Oh yeah, this is awesome. I don't think this is in here, so I can't actually play it, but I can show it to you.
Cool.
So that's panning, right? That's panning. That was the distance curve that I found works for whatever reason. And that was the filtering that went on. So as this was getting driven to, doors would be counted up as they would add to the filter value. If there was a closed door, we added a certain number onto the filter value as well.
Did you find that the changing the positioning would confuse anybody at all as far as like that's what they're playing and they think it should be coming from up there, but it's actually coming from over here? Or was that more helpful because they knew which way to go to get to it?
Nobody complained about it. So I'll take that as a win. the old audio. Well, they didn't say anything bad. It must be good. Any other questions?
Sorry, did I hear that right? That the sound like perceptually emanates from the portal and not the actual point source?
Where does the sound come
from?
The panning.
If
panning isn't affected.
Do I hear it directing from the center of the wall, or do I hear it directing from the door around the wall?
It was mostly like guards would. The sound was emanating from the guards.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what did the panning do?
Well, the panning was like along like left to right of the screen. Like if you've played a certain Greek-looking 2D indie game, it's all left, right, and center. Because they've got the listener. I swear they have the listener position right on the 2D field, and it's like it all goes hard. And so this was like my response to that because I didn't think about moving the camera position off of that field at this time. I don't think. So I just did this panning thing and said, I'm taking over control. Like we do know where it is in the screen, and I sort of like slowed that pan out.
So the pan wasn't generated by the pathfinding. It was
No.
just, I see. Okay,
Yeah.
I had confused that. I assumed like Jesse was asking too that it was coming from the portal and not from
Yeah, no, the panning just came from position like left to right on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. So if anybody's happening to do a 2D game, you should do something like this. It's not hard and sounds way better than not doing this. Any other questions? In the back.
Did you run this on emitters and everything else too?
Yep. Yeah, basically these three parameters are on almost every single sound in the game.
Was there ever a point where it seemed even remotely taxing?
Nope. Nobody ever complained to me. Kind of what Gord was alluding to too, being in the indie world, we're not pushing graphics the way a lot of AAA stuff is. And I think that's a reason that we in audio can get away with more because there's not like somebody else going, "Rah, I'm taking all the resources." We're just like, "Yay, we're a 2D game."
I'm optimizing nothing.
Yeah. I have optimized surprisingly little of my audio stuff. I don't think, let me see if I can get to my extra thing I was alluding to make my math wrong. I wanted to quickly, if it'll work, talk about, let's see if this will play. This was our, we needed some music for the challenge rooms, and then I ended up using it at the front end menu of the game too. We quickly needed some music, so I made this semi-procedural music thing that I slipped into the game. Nobody said no. So this is really simple. It's just like 4 loops. 4 loops and a start. Each one of these is a bucket of randomly firing off sounds, and it just becomes this like cool, like 10-hour or whatever ambient loop thing that I've always really liked. And I found that the one trick I learned from this was that's nice. You hear there's the same sound at the start every time? That's one thing that plays every single time just at the start, and it tricks everybody into, oh, I know that song. It gave a sort of hook to it, to like, oh, I know what that is. Yeah, see this ambient room start, it's just one sound and then it's done, and the rest are their convolving loopy things. So there we go. Any questions? Oh, you know, I'm right on time. That's good. Thanks. That's me on Twitter. We got the podcasts, Beards, Cats, and Indie Game Audio with Gord, if you haven't listened to it. That's my email. I also run the Game Audio Slack team. If anybody wants into it, it's a madhouse. You know, some of you are there.
Some of us peer in.
Yeah, right. It's a great resource. It's not for everybody, and
It's like the fridge in Ghostbusters.
so yeah, that was it.